Welcome back, everybody, to another live stream today. Pretty heady topic. We're going to be talking about bike touring during, what's going on during COVID-19 pandemic. Should you do it? And I'm really stoked about our guest today. We've got Pat and Jalay from Spoken Hostel. If you're not familiar, they're like a super host for bike tourists.
They're the superest of super hosts.
Superest of super hostess. And they're based in the small town of Mitchell, Oregon. It's along the Trans Am route, adventure cycling route. They've also played host to a ton of varying cycling events, like Cycle Oregon's passed through there, Ochiko Overlander, Ramble Ride. So for a small town, population 130, they made a huge impact on lots of cyclists' lives. And today we're going to chat with them and see how they're doing, what their perception is of whether you should go there or not. Should you postpone your trip or what you should do? But most importantly, how to support communities like them now, and also what to expect in the future. One more bit of housekeeping. If you're a Patreon supporter, you've got access to a Zoom call. You'll get a chance to ask them directly your questions. That's one of the perks. Use the little blue hand. If you're in YouTube, we will also get to your questions. A really quick question to the people in YouTube chat. How many of you guys have been to Spoken Hostel? Let us know in the comments, and we'll pass it on to Pat and Jalay. But enough talking to me. Welcome to the YouTube channel of Pat and Jalay.
Hey, you guys. It's good to see you again.
Yeah. Last time I was there, it was under much better times. It was during the Ochiko Overlander. But right. things have changed. So you guys are.
Go ahead.
So you guys are in good health and everything?
Yeah. Yeah, we've done a pretty good job of sort of self-isolating. Yeah. As some people know, this is also a church. We've moved all of our church services online. We belong to a family of 5 other churches, and so together we all just do online services. And so we're not gathering in person, but so there's that. And then we've also, if you follow our Instagram or Facebook, you've seen that, and our website, you've seen that we've actually closed the doors for right now. You can't actually make a reservation at the time. So it was a hard decision. Sort of felt
counterintuitive.
Yeah, it was counterintuitive. Yeah, to close right as the season was picking up was a really, really difficult thing. But yeah, we had some direction, obviously, from the governor's office about a travel ban. So we knew that traveling was going to sort of fall off anyway. And then we just had a concern about our community and the health of our community. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Mitchell's super small. Like, do you have healthcare services in the town, or how far do people have to travel?
Kind of.
Well, sort of. I mean, we have, well, you can talk about the health clinic.
Well, we have a health clinic that is up in the parking lot of our school, and that is for the community as well as the kids at school and the teachers. But it's only 1 day a week. And, they can't handle really important things, but if you've had a sore throat for a while or that kind of thing, then you can go. We have a practitioner, but we have one for an entire county, not for our small town. So we share her with two other towns. Three other towns.
Yep.
And
no, you're right. She's right. There's only 3 towns in Wheeler County.
I thought so, but
okay, so I'm not good at math.
Yeah, I mean, that's a struggle. Her husband lovingly put a note on their door that said, "Yes, we do love you. Please go away. If she's sick, you're all sick."
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, it's a real concern, especially since most of our population is either retired or school-age kids. So we've got the carriers and the victims.
Right.
So we're trying to keep them all healthy.
Yeah. So how much of? Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
how much of Mitchell is closed? Is all of Mitchell closed, or is the
everything at the grocery store? And we have a little cafe next door that is doing takeout service for limited hours, but everything else.
And the gas station is open on limited hours. So So yeah, one gas station. Cannon's Tire Shop is open. That's sort of for emergencies. It's pretty essential there. And then, the cafe next door is open, just limited hours for takeout. The grocery store is, I mean, talk about a godsend, man. Those guys, Gabe and Megan Salvage, who opened the Wheeler County Trading. I mean, we couldn't do it without them at all. Because you guys have been out here. Our closest store is 50 miles away,
Right.
and so traveling 100 miles just to get milk. Yeah. So
Especially if you're not sure if there's going to be milk at the store you've traveled to.
Yeah.
Right.
Or any other supply. So yeah, they've just been an amazing part of the community for a long time, but now they've even stepped that up.
And they're doing a great job of supplying for the community too. Like I went in there to get flour to make some bread, and Gabe was like, "I can't believe it. I've got
flour.
I've got flour."
bleach.
Yeah, he was doing okay on that type of stuff. So
I mean, no, we're just getting by the skin of our teeth,
yes.
right?
We have no toilet paper.
We have no toilet paper.
So yeah, we are. Everything is pretty much closed. Yeah.
So when we were there, like there's a couple new businesses, Painted Hills Pastries, they're closed too. How about Tiger Town? Oh no.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so there's I was just had a little, a 6 foot away sit down meeting with Sean Hawkins, the brewmaster at Tiger Town. So they closed early because for a similar reason, they didn't want to be the ones that brought people into town that may have brought the virus to town, right? So they closed before the governor ordered restaurants to do just takeout only, or just shortly after. But they had already planned to close. So
they were also protecting their employees.
Yeah, they had to protect their employees. But now they're talking about potentially opening for takeout orders just maybe Saturday, Sunday.
So that must be a tough situation because it seems as if in the last couple of years, Mitchell's become a little bit more of a tourist destination. And just to have these fledgling businesses start and all of a sudden have the rug pulled out from beneath them with all this, it's quite a blow.
Yeah. Well, and we have another, eatery that's going to open up. Two more. Yeah, there were 2 more food carts that were scheduled to open at spring break, and they both had to tap the brakes on that. And so now we've got this difficulty where you've got 2 businesses that were queued up and ready to go, and then they just had to stop. So I mean, it's hard, I mean, like Gillet worked really hard to make this thing come to life, to really come to fruition. And then I can't imagine if this was our first year. I mean, what a letdown.
Yeah, like I said, it's counterintuitive because everything that we do, and even before we opened, started with come see what an amazing, magical place we have. And by the way, stay with us. And now it's like, oh no, please don't come. I mean, not right now, I mean. Yeah. So it's a very strange place to be. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a good rest for me because we kind of have been in that hamster wheel for about 5 years now. But it's also very weird. It's very weird.
Yeah, so we were, we were totaling up the numbers. Our first year, I think we hosted about 300 and some people. Last year we hosted
1,300.
1,300. So, and just was that 3 seasons or 4?
4 seasons.
So in 4 seasons, we went from 300 to 1,300.
That's incredible.
So yeah. I mean, sure, it feels good to have a little bit of a break, but man,
Well, I feel pretty certain that you guys are gonna rebound because I think that the Trans Am will continue to be a draw.
Right.
Right. Even if people aren't able to ride it this year, I'm sure people will ride it next year.
Well, I'm hoping it just fans the flame of desire to come back.
Yeah. Well, it seems like Travel Oregon is doing a pretty good job of telling people stay home right now, but keep planning. Plan for when things reopen. Is that kind of a message that you're hearing as well?
Yeah, I think we're hearing that, and we're seeing it with just kind of pings on our website and
Yeah.
the notes that people are leaving. Oh, so bummed that you're not open, but what do you think about maybe August? And, we're guessing like everybody else, but there's a lot of interest. I mean, we have seen
Yeah.
people from all over the world on our site, and it's just like, holy cow, really?
Yeah, so anyone who's listening, like, or watching, we're not Big Brother,
No.
but we do get notifications. Like just now, we literally just got a notification that somebody's on the site from Los Angeles, and earlier today it was South Korea, and then it was also France and Germany and Canada and Australia, New York. I mean, and this is just today alone. So I think people are, they're
itching.
Yeah, they're itching to go. The hard part is that since we don't have a really solid date that we can start opening reservations again, then, right now you can't make a reservation on the website. So,
Right.
So we're a little bit, I mean, this is where it gets counterintuitive, because coming from advertising and marketing with a focus on hospitality, it's really hard to just, like, oh, look at all these people and they want to come, and I can't help them.
Yeah.
I hope they come back.
Yeah. So I did notice somebody pointed out that I'm using the shorthand of saying the Trans Am. Trans Am stands for the Transamerica Trail. It's a bike route that goes from Astoria, Oregon, all the way to Yorktown, Virginia, across the country. It goes right by your front door, basically.
Yeah, it's like right out the front door. It's 30 feet up. And that's probably so the Transamerica, there's the Transamerica bike race, the TABR, and then there's the Bike Nonstop US, which both of those races, Nathan has done us a huge favor by having those races come through here early in the season. I mean, we offer our hospitality to anyone and everyone. Racers are no different than tourers to us. We love everyone the same. But during those races, we know people are coming, so we stay open 24 hours for the first few days of each race. And it's so great. It's like this, I don't know. I mean, we have people come from Southern California and all this stuff to our friends, Doug and Donna, I hope they're watching, are fantastic. They come up and they really help us out with this whole thing. And
it's like a family reunion.
Yeah, it's like a family reunion. Yeah. And so to not have that, because both of those were canceled,
pull the wind out of our sails.
Yeah, it just takes the wind out of you. And
well, let's talk a little bit about like bike tourism in general for you guys. Like, it seems, beyond just the Trans Am, you've been hosted multiple events and everything. It seems like a fairly good part of at least your business, but also like maybe the general economy of Mitchell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what we opened for, is to do that two-sided coin of not only host well, but develop the economy of Mitchell. And so in closing the different races and having people not be able to come via the Overlander and stay with us and stay for a couple of days and move on to the other communities, it's had a financial impact on the community.
Well, to be clear, the Overlander is still on. The Ochiko Overlander from Good Bike Company, that is still on.
Yes.
So
I'm sorry, Good Bike Company.
But the Bike Nonstop US uses parts of that Overland Trail. But yeah, not having, I don't know, like not just being out there adding to the bike tourism consciousness, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, actually.
Yeah, and that Mitchell is part of that magic, and the Painted Hills is part of that magic. Even if you don't stay the night here, there's still a lot of people that, because of the work that Jalay's done on the hostel and reached so many people, they just come out for the day and they end up at Tiger Town or the store or the cafe. And so we're not seeing any of that. Yeah, so we will. And like I said, that is part of the difficulty of when I see somebody come on the website that's from Portland or Bend or something, and I'm just thinking, oh, they probably just want to come out for the day. And I hate to.
Yeah, and it's hard not giving out information. Like, this is the time of year we're telling people what wildflowers are blooming and bringing out photographers, and if the roads have been swept yet, and so that they're nice and clean and all the sand is off of them, or how muddy the back roads are, that kind of stuff. If they're moving cattle, and it's an odd silence to be a part of. It reminds me of the whole Mad Max thing, where it's just the people that you're talking to that are your world.
Yeah.
Having an amazing opportunities to speak with people like you guys, that we never really get a chance to see. So,
but maybe talking about bike tourism in general, one of the things that I think is going to come out of this is, I just read an article that bicycle sales are, and you guys have probably heard this too, bicycle sales are going through the roof. And, I love to hear that, because I think that since there is this great established place to go, an established network, all those people are probably like, well, I wonder what else I can do on a bicycle. And all the work that you're doing and all the work that's been done here, people are going to be like, oh, well, check that out. There's somewhere to go.
Which is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
For sure. And we track a lot of tourism chatter. What are people saying about how we're going to come back, and how this is going to change the way that we travel and that sort of thing. And one of the things that people talk about is that those activities like biking, like hiking, are going to be the first to come back, because gets you out into the world, and not in group form. So I think it'll be good for cycling in the long run.
Yeah, I have to say that just hearing you say that gives me little butterflies. Oh my gosh, somebody's coming.
Nice.
But yeah, it's exciting. It's super exciting to hear that. And Cycle Oregon is still on too. I mean, Cycle Oregon will be here in September for their classic, and they're spending 2 days in Mitchell. And that's pretty exciting. That there's still a lot of buzz about that too. And then the Overlanders just after that. So, I mean.
So you guys have plenty of time to be exhausted.
Right.
So I would not be truthful if I didn't say that after I got used to the idea that we were going to be quiet, I didn't start sleeping in a little bit, and I may have a load of laundry or two that sat there for a week or more. So once I embraced it, I kind of fully embraced it.
Okay, I showered for this. Okay.
Nice.
So I'm curious, what are just some of the unique challenges with COVID in a rural setting? I mean, I think limited access to markets. We spoke a little bit offline about all of a sudden the school system had to do distance learning, but do you guys have fiber in Mitchell or
no? Okay, so so here's the thing. So we've got roughly 50 students. A number of those students were from overseas. So the day that the governor said that they might be closing the schools just for an extra week after spring break, they hadn't even closed the schools for the year. All of the foreign students went back home overseas, and this is a hard thing, because we develop relationships with those students, and no kidding, I they were just gone.
Literally.
Right. They had no time to say goodbye.
They were not kidnapped, but it was if they were.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
So it took both of us.
Yeah. So this is hard, right?
There's no closure, there's no goodbye, and they've been a part of our life and the community. And I'm
Anyway. So saying not being able to say goodbye to those students was one of those things that COVID, I had no idea that that would be one of the side effects, you know, just like the impact of that, the not having closure and having that happen. And then, yeah, the school had to pivot and say, and fortunately, our superintendent and our teachers, they had already decided to pivot the direction that the governor wanted to go and that the school system wanted to go. So we were already for about a week and a half to 2 weeks sort of we were already sort of leading the way, which was really cool. Vince Swaggerty, our superintendent, he's also a cyclist. And, you know, you see him outdoors all the time. And so it was cool to see us being able to, even though we're a small community and we're really, really remote and rural, the school system was able to pivot really quickly. So as bus drivers, I'm also a bus driver, you know, we're taking meals and homework packets directly to like mailboxes and, you know, and stuff like that. So every day we go out and we do our routes. There's 3 bus drivers. And, but the difficulty is the internet. You know, Wheeler County is very, very rugged. It's very difficult to get a signal. Everything runs off of a wireless tower system throughout the county, which, you know, is you know, they're doing their best, I think, but there's no fiber. There's no, you know, we don't have any kind of strong bandwidth. And then there's a number of students, a few students that just didn't have internet at home. Some of them don't. There's a couple of them that live really remote and they're off the grid. So trying to meet those needs has been very difficult. And then I think just the biggest concern, one of the biggest concerns that I have, and we've talked about this a lot, is that, yeah, we don't have, you know, we don't have 3 EMTs on staff. You know, we don't have a hospital. We have a health clinic that's open 1 or 2 days a week. Our hospital is 50 miles away. If you have respiratory problems, it's a helicopter ride out of here. You're not going to be in the back of an ambulance. You might, but the reality is that when somebody comes to a rural community like this, and I hate saying this, but when someone comes to a rural community, like, for example, a motorcyclist, like I'm a motorcyclist, I want to be out there riding my motorcycle more than anything. The problem is if I lay that bike down, right, our resources are stretched so thin that if I had one emergency, you know, and have to go to town, that's just not good. And so, you know, bicyclists and motorcyclists are typically folks that see themselves as, look, I'm going to go do my thing, which is automatically social distancing, right? Which is true. But if something goes wrong and you're in a little rural community like ours, you know, the impact it's huge. And then if you're an asymptomatic carrier and you come into Mitchell and the majority of our population is over 65, and you're in the store and you don't know, I mean, you go back to wherever, Portland, Los Angeles, whatever, you don't know that maybe you just had a massive impact in a little teeny town. So that sounds a little fear mongering. And I don't want to be that way, but that's the real thing, is that when we look at who's impacted by this virus, it's the majority of our population that's high risk. So, you know, adjusting to the fact that we have minimal resources, those are the big impacts for us. So I don't know if you have something to add to that.
Well, as we are a church, our very first thing is to love the people here and take care of them and shepherd them. And
yeah, loving people is difficult.
There's a little bit of, you know, the elbows coming out and just like, we'd love to see you sincerely, but maybe you could just RSVP for another time.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it is. And to wear both hats of hospitality and then also the hat of, but wait, stay there.
Yeah.
Trying to protect the people that live here. And we don't want to be the one that brings in the one thing that makes 5 people sick that suddenly has got 25 people sick. That's our entire town. So it's an unusual time, but there are things I liked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then there's, I mean, we're part of a ranching community, right? And so, the ranchers, they're sort of business as usual, because this is the time of year where they don't introduce new people into their sphere anyway, because they're moving cows, they're trying to get them, out of the lowlands and up into the highlands and do branding and things like that. And so the ranchers are sort of carrying on as normal. Sort of one of the funny things that, and I'm sure you've probably seen this meme before, but here in Wheeler County, the ranchers were like, when the governor said, well, you got to stay 6 feet away from each other, the ranchers were like, 6 feet, that seems kind of close, doesn't it? So they're used to being very, isolated in day-to-day activities. So they're carrying on. But, everything else is ground to a halt.
Yeah. So there's a
have you started thinking about what it looks like at some point when whatever that all clear is and you guys can reopen, how things are going to be different, how you pivot,
Yeah. I might be losing sleep over that, but
and I recognize that we're probably still a ways away from that, but
maybe,
But
maybe
I
not.
think both of us have kind of not said anything to the other, because there's a little bit of the seventh wave kind of, and there's nothing to be done for it. So you don't want to just live in the fear of it. And yet I'm kind of excited to have the income come back in. But I'm not, I want to give our best to people. And if everybody comes in waves, I know I'm not going to be able to do that. And so I honestly have a little bit of concern about how we're going to navigate that rush of people who are tired of being caged animals at home and just ready to get out and spread their wings a little bit, because
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, I'm sure you guys probably know this about Jalea, but lowering her standards of how this place operates is not an option. And so, having a huge influx of people who are eager to spend time out here, it's a little bit nerve-wracking in some respect. There's also one of the things I think about, and I'm sure a lot of people are having this conversation, is like my grandparents used to, they had this saying about, cleanliness is next to godliness, right? And just so everyone knows, that's not actually in the Bible. But anyway, so, I mean, there's versions of it, but anyway, but I recognize that they probably inherited that thinking from their grandparents and their parents who went through, the 1919 flu epidemic. And what I wonder is, like, the customers, the travelers, the guests that have stayed with us all this time up to this point, are they going to be the same post,
will we be the same? I mean, I
Yeah.
can't think of how many guests / my new friends I've hugged on the way out because I'm excited for their adventure, or I'm sorry to leave them leave, or see them leave, or both.
Yeah.
And it's quizzical.
Yeah, like what's the new protocol for saying goodbye? I mean,
I think
little things like that.
we're all going to embrace the elbow bump.
Yeah, that's kind of the weird stuff. Is, I mean, that's the silly little things that I think about. But there is a question of, like, who's going to be comfortable being in the same vehicle with each other, or I mean, obviously, this is a communal sleeping setting. Are people going to be willing to do that now? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that we closed is because the governor said that if you're going to remain open at the front end of this, you have to appoint a person who's there all the time in your lodging establishment who can keep people 6 feet apart.
Right.
Well, in a hostel scenario, you just can't do that.
It's by nature communal. So,
I'm sorry, getting behind the line to use the stove, in
Right.
an hour or
Right.
whatever. And so it's just like, okay, rather than make it weird and have to be there the entire time, we're going to just take this opportunity to close early and take care of reservations so people can, be prepared that we're not going to be open.
Yeah.
But it is interesting in the back of my mind of what I'm thinking about that reintroduction to people. And because I know that I may or may not have binged watched a few things since
Yeah.
and
It's gonna be hard to let that go.
So I've got, we're getting to the halfway point, and before I open up to the Zoom questions, I'm curious, like what's the best way to help you guys now and in the future? And
So, yeah, it's difficult to ask this, but we are a nonprofit organization. The hostel is a ministry of the church, right? However many people stay with us does not change we get a monthly stipend for being pastors. Okay, so it doesn't change anything, but it does allow us to make, adjustments to the building, pay the heating bill and all those kind of things. If we can have people make a donation on our way, it's a tax deductible donation, that would be a huge help, because we know that we've lost at minimum 500 reservations.
Oh, it's almost 900.
Yeah, we're creeping into 900 now. And we don't know when we're going to be able to open these doors again. And we're able to weather a storm, but that's going to make it really difficult to be available for fall and winter and spring of next year. So if that means that we have to we have to not get paid and we have to do other things, it's like, yeah, okay, we don't care. We're still going to be pastors and we're still going to offer hospitality. That's not a problem. But it's an old building and we got to maintain it, and there's a number of things that we got to keep doing. So donations are if you go to our website, spokenhostel.org, there's a make a donation button that can help us immediately.
Mhm.
In the future, man, keep an eye on those reservations when those open up.
Yeah.
I would love to have a date that says, like, the Oregon State Parks, when they say on January 1st, get your reservation
Yeah,
in there.
Yeah.
But
We don't know.
we're kind of waiting for that information.
And
Yeah.
thank you to whoever just logged in from Dublin, Ireland. We love you.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool. Well, let's open up. Anyone in the Zoom, do you guys have a question? You can raise your virtual blue hand and you guys can ask your question. Come on, Andy from the Velo Studio. You always have a question. Michael Mann, I know he's been there a couple times. If not, let's go to YouTube chat. So in the chat room, if you guys have been to Spoken Hostel, let me know, and also where you're coming from. Okay, Brian. Brian's got a question here. Brian, you've got the floor.
Okay, going back to what you were talking about earlier about your year-to-year increase in business, what do you attribute that to? Do you advertise? Is it word of mouth? How much of that has to do with Russ's videos and the coverage of the Ochco Overlander?
It's 100%. It's 100%.
It's all Russ, right?
Yeah,
It's all him.
So
Yeah, there are only board members.
yeah, right.
Right.
So Brian, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. So here's the crazy thing. I spent 20 years in marketing and advertising. We don't advertise. It is the strangest thing that we do not advertise. We have a very small advertising budget of,
$250.
yeah, about $250. What has happened for us is, we joke about Russ and Laura being, the major factor there, but it's true. We still get a lot of people, because I can look back on where people came into our website. We still get, travelers from the very first video that they shot here, where they were just shooting. You guys were just shooting handheld, whatever, and it's those things that continue on. The other thing is that during the Transamerica, since we're on the left coast, we get early travelers leaving Astoria. they stay with us, and then they cross with other travelers along the way, and then, you know, so the word spreads along the Transamerica really quickly. And that's where we get a lot of those travelers. And then the last part is just, I mean,
And kudos to Travel Oregon.
Yeah,
They've done a good
that's
job
true.
of introducing the area
Yep.
and letting people know that although we are a frontier area, we're not so remote that there's no resources and there's fun things to do.
I mean, there's
So
good beer,
there's
There is good beer.
and
and there's the
So
scenic
that-
bikeway.
the scenic bikeways that the state has put together and that we're right on, that has definitely helped. So we location, but also word of mouth, I would say is our top things.
So Jalea probably won't say this, but I'm going to give her a little bit of credit, a lot of credit here, because this whole thing was Jalea's vision, right? To provide 5-star hospitality in the middle of nowhere on a donation basis. And the donation basis, you know, maybe that gets people, right? The middle of nowhere part, maybe that gets people. But honestly, Jalea provides a 5-star experience in a hostel setting, hostel HOSTEL. Yeah,
Not hostile.
right. So Jalea's been spending the last, few years providing 5-star hospitality that is, I mean, honestly, it's free. If you show up here and you don't have money, you don't get a worse bed, or you don't get to not use the kitchen or whatever. It's everyone's the same. Every traveler is the same. Every traveler deserves the 5-star experience. And so that, I think that word has gotten out. I will say that the other thing that has helped us a lot is Google reviews. Google reviews are the thing that, because we're 9 miles from the Painted Hills, and people, when they type in Painted Hills into Google Maps, we come up because we have a lot of 5-star reviews on Google. And so Google and Facebook reviews are a huge determining factor. So those are things. Anything else?
Well, that reminds me of, you asked what people could do, Russ, and just even
Yeah.
if they've stayed here in the past, leaving a review this time of year really keeps us coming back up to the top when people look for us after this is over. So if you've stayed and you'd like to leave a review about here,
We'd love it.
we'd love it, especially if it's a good one.
That's a great
If
point.
it's not, keep it to yourself. Okay, we've got a question here from Andy. Andy, you've got the floor.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Hey, Andy, how are you doing?
I was wondering, when you started the hostel, I'm sure you kind of had hopes and ideas about how you wanted it to turn out. Now that you've been doing it for a few years, how have those ideas changed, and what are your kind of hopes for the future as we move past, take the COVID out of the equation? What are your kind of new hopes and dreams for the place?
So, Andy, of course, the first thing that we have to point out is I'm completely in love with your shop. So, having said that, I will turn this over to Jalea about like where we started and where we're at now and where we're headed.
Thank you. Well, I am still spot on chipping away at what I've always seen for this place. And although I spent the first couple of years just really getting the interior established, ripping out the insanely ugly carpet, making the funky old person smell leave the building, making it inviting.
I don't think you can say that.
Okay. I think we've arrived there to the, I have used every crevice in this building with the exception of the space above the ceiling and the attic area, which has no floor. So, I mean, that's the only place I have left inside the building. And so this year, my whole idea and hope is to really begin landscaping and curb appeal and activities outside, like our bocce ball court and community garden. And we've got tents and hammocks down at the creek this year and tables. And that's beginning to grow a little bit more and just making it really feel like a destination when you've arrived on the outside as well as the inside, and getting the building painted maybe this year or next year. We're doing it a few inches at a time. So I feel every year we reach a bigger number. And it's not an exact number when we tell you that we had 1,300 people last year. because we write everyone's name on their bed that stays or in their room. And Russ and Laura, you know, we've had you guys with that, and people take them sometimes as a memento. But at the end of the year in January, we just sit down at our big kitchen table and we just start counting those. So we don't even count the reservations. We just know that that person was in a bed. And then we may have 35 people in a group or something, so I'll count that group as 35. But it just keeps growing beyond my wildest dreams. I was over the moon of 365 people the first year. And when we got to 1,300 last year, we literally recounted 3 times because I kept thinking, that can't be right. That can't be right.
So Andy, one of the things that's important to note here is that when Julie started this, I mean, this is going to sound really embarrassing. You guys know where this is going. The whole idea was to open a hostel, to provide hospitality out of this church, or just to provide hospitality in Mitchell, Oregon. Embarrassingly, we didn't even know when somebody said, "Oh, that's near the Trans Am." I'm a car guy. I'm like, "Yeah, there's probably a Trans Am out there." We didn't even know about the Transamerica bicycle route when we started. The other thing is that neither one of us had ever stayed in a hostel, and neither one of us are cyclists. Yeah, right. Sorry. But the thing is that the vision for providing hospitality superseded, you know, the client base and the building and the route and everything else. So starting with just providing really high quality donation-based hospitality, and then finding out that there was this huge market, I mean, that was like, you know, that was a shocker. So I don't know if that answers, but.
Well, and I just want to really quick tag on that. The next level of that beyond our place is that we just have an enthusiasm to teach other people in small communities how to do this. You know, we're so excited about we went across the United States last year on the route with our friends Donna and Doug Strange from California, who had done the route, and we met them while they stayed with us. And we went to every single place that a cyclist stays, whether or not we could stay there or not. And oh my gosh, just the whole time I was like, this would be a great place. Oh my, who can I talk to here? Who can I talk to? You know, so I guess to evangelize cycling and the impact that it has on a community and hospitality and how you just can't separate those.
Yeah.
You just can't, and how exciting it is when it starts to work.
So I guess, yeah, Andy, that's kind of the next step.
That's the next level.
That's the next level. It's not franchising Spoken Hostel. It's, we honestly just want to help other, you know, whether it's a church, an Elks Club, whatever, we want to help others do this same thing because it has a huge positive effect on your communities. It's fantastic, whether you're on the Transamerica or not.
And the people coming.
Yeah, and it's good for the people that are coming. So we'd love to be able to, you know, I mean, we may have identified a few cities on the Transamerica that we wouldn't mind going back to, and you know,
thank you for that question, because it gives us a chance to talk about something that's still an absolute simmer inside.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, you know, you alluded to that big road trip. What were some of your big lessons going along the route and stopping at different places?
Jeffrey City is both a godsend and an absolute punisher. You know, Jeffrey City, like there's nothing on either side of Jeffrey City. And, you know, I had breakfast with the pastor when we stayed there. And, you know, he moves there from Casper, Wyoming. He brings his trailer out just so he can open the doors for cyclists during the cycling season. Oh, wow. Like they don't even do church there, right? And that impacted me that, you know, there's people who they don't even live there, but they know how important of a stopover they are for cyclists, that they just, you know, they stop everything for a summer every year to provide that. You know, Guffey, Guffey, Colorado. Is that Guffey? Is that right? Yeah. So, I mean, that was interesting. And just, I loved seeing that the hospitality, there is hospitality across the country. I don't want to say that there's not hospitality elsewhere. I don't want to say that at all. But it was interesting to me, like how many more opportunities there could be, and seemingly how somewhat disconnected the cycling and the local communities sort of were. Like there was people in the community like, yeah, there's people from bikes, people on bikes all the time. And, and we're like, you could give them a place to stay and they spend money in your town. Oh, you think so? Yeah.
Yeah, the disconnect for businesses and cycling is just
It was crazy.
mind-boggling to me. It's like, well, yeah, I guess there are a few that come through here in the summer. So, well,
Right.
what if I told you that there's probably a minimum of 1,000 people that pass by your door? Not necessarily all up from the Trans Am, but other people
in
that are
general.
riding it as well. Well, do you think they would stop here? Would they have ice cream here? I'm pretty sure. That was interesting. And it was interesting for me to see all the places that have been around for 30 years, essentially, that have been showing hospitality to cyclists. And it's just part of the DNA of what they do now, how much they do get it. And it may not be a lot that they have to offer, or it might be an awful lot. I mean, they may have built an entire wing on their building just to host a cyclist or two that come through. So it showed me that we're doing it right. That there's a reason for us to be here, as well as a reason for people to go.
The other thing that was interesting to me is how vast this country is. I mean, I know you guys have done bicycles. I've never been across the country. And this trip that we did, just the culture shifts and sort of these micro cultures along the way. That was an interesting thing too, because you go to you're in Virginia and Kentucky and Missouri. You sort of lump them into the South or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there's these interesting little micro cultures along the way, which I would think as a cyclist, that's got to be the most exciting thing. It's like 50 miles away, it's completely different. Some things are the same, but it's really different, really cool. So
yeah, I remember when we rode through Texas. Texas is like such a huge state, and we took our time. So it took us about
3 months.
3 months. We stopped a lot. We weren't just going 10 miles a day. But what was fascinating was just like the regional dialects across Texas would change.
Right.
By the time we got to Eastern Texas, it was almost it sounded like kind of this Louisianan drawl to it. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that was the thing. When we got to Kentucky, I had to ask somebody, what's the difference between a holler
And a hollow.
A holler, and a lick.
And a lick.
What's a,
What's a lick?
because there's a bunch of them. And then there was something else. There was one other thing, but it was just like, what does all this mean? And they all laugh and they're like, well, I don't know where we came up with that.
Cool. Any
great.
other questions in the Zoom? If you've got a question, raise your blue hand. If not, I'm going to scroll through the YouTube chat really quickly.
You have a lot of fans in the YouTube
so
right
David
now.
Bond, he's been there last September. Tom Oler stayed there in 2018.
Tom!
Yeah. Berkeley Martinez, he stayed there during the Ochiko Overlander.
The Overlander, yeah.
Anthony Lewis says hi.
It's
amazing that I'm in people.
Zach Whitney, you guys are the best. Visited there in 2016 Trans Am and was amazed by your hospitality. And Anthony Lewis stayed there last year in July while cycling the Trans Am Trail. So you guys have a lot of guests that have passed through in the chat.
And I think we met Anthony again in Jeffrey City because he stayed with us and then we met up with him. Yeah.
Because we were on the road during that month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Cool. So for your, you've got Zoom meeting folks in there. I really appreciate the questions. I'm also interested. What do people want? What do people want to see?
Yeah.
What do you want to see out of this? Do you want to see more of these kinds of things? Do you have something like this going on in your community? I don't know. We're somewhat isolated.
That's a great question.
Yeah, if you're in the Zoom, you want to answer that, or if you're in the YouTube chat, there's a little bit of a delay between the Zoom and the chat, so it might take a second for it to catch up.
So, and the other thing too is that, I mean, we are looking for communities that want to do this. We're looking for, whether it's a faith-based community or not, we're looking to, like one of the models that we've talked about is, you come to Spoken Hostel during a summer, you spend 2 or 3 weeks out here. We show you how we do it. And then if you have a space that you think works, Chile is fantastic at creating hospitable spaces. And,
Right.
We'll come to you and we'll either bring our trailer or whatever, and we'll stay there for a few weeks and help you get that off the ground, because it's that important to us that this type of thing continue. So.
Yeah, we don't have a home remodel show,
No.
back in the day. We sold everything at a thrift store and a garage sale, but I mean, we pulled it together pretty well. And so we understand that low budget expectation.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the thrill of it is pulling it together. So we're just so
we're
excited to
help.
get to do that with someone.
Yeah.
So Pat, that would make an awesome YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where you go in and you help like renovation, like it'd be like, bike hostel boot camp.
Oh.
So,
I don't know if you want, I mean.
Okay, if this season poops out, look for us on YouTube.
yeah, there you go.
We're like,
It
we're not,
doesn't,
we're not Chip and Joanna. No.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say it'd be good content, just like giving a tour, maybe like some before and after stuff, so.
Yeah. Well, we just had, and I just saw that chat pop up. Somebody was asking if you wanted to wink retire, identify yourself. Who were you? But what was funny was when we were doing our cross country trip, and I was posting photos along the way, we had somebody who has come out and helped us quite a bit. And Terry Wortman is her name. She did the Trans Am with part of Tom Middaugh's Transamerica group, adventure cycling group. Right. And then she's come back several times to help. She lives in Portland. And when we were in Jeffrey City, she sent Jalea a note that just said, hey, what if I wanted to just be essentially a camp host, right? And that's another model that we want to investigate.
Yes, we do.
Is for whoever it was that just asked that question about, what if you wanted to retire and run a hostel? There's probably a few places that I think that we could call back to and say, look, I've got somebody who I think wouldn't mind just being available, greeting cyclists and kind of handling the day-to-day activities. And maybe they don't want any pay for it. Maybe they just want to, just kind of and enjoy it. So, Michael Mann. Yeah. so yeah, I mean, we really want to encourage that kind of thinking, because I think there are churches, there are spaces across the country that that could stand to have that kind of knowledge, and somebody who really understands hospitality and what it means to cyclists. And then it'd be cool if they'd stayed here and we could kind of show them. But then essentially being a camp host, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a combination of camp host and Walmart greeter.
So,
I like it.
So anyone interested in that, please, yes, get in touch with us, because, Michael, I'm going to find a place for you.
Mm-hmm.
It might be, somewhere in Kentucky.
Cool. Andy's got a question. Andy, you got the floor.
So you guys are saying, you're asking like, what do we look for, or what would we want? And I'm a generally shy person, so travel for me, but the most enriching parts of the travel are meeting the local people. So I guess in a perfect world, hospitality would be not only a bed and great food, but it would also be kind of introduction to the local people. Like some of the best vacations I've had have not been, traveling to great destinations, but going to interesting places and then sitting in a VFW and drinking beer with a couple of World War II veterans.
Yep.
Like that, those have always been kind of the most enriching things. And kind of the access or the introduction to those interesting people. I think that's what would, for me personally, that's what would be the most kind of rewarding kind of travel.
Well,
Go
then
ahead.
I can't wait to see you, because that's exactly the model that we have.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what we do.
We have breakfast here, and by breakfast I mean we have Cheerios or Kix, your choice, and we have bread if you want to make toast, and if we've done shopping well, you have eggs that you can cook.
Yeah.
But the whole idea is we don't want you
We
here.
want you in the community.
We want you in the community. We want you to have to go to the store or to go to the restaurant in order to eat that night or that morning before you leave. So really, we just have some bare minimum stuff. So if you want to leave at 5 in the morning before something's open, you don't have to leave on an empty tummy. And you know, we have coffee all day and tea and all that stuff, and ice cream tuck-in service at night. But the whole idea is to get you out to meet the community, to have the conversation with the guy that collects rocks and sells them on the sidewalk.
And
stuff.
the other cool thing is that because the environment is the way that it is, generally what ends up happening is if you have so Jalea and I travel very differently. Jalea is probably more like you in that she's, you know, a little more shy about meeting new people. Russ and Laura can tell you I have never met a stranger in my life. You know, I can't go to the store and get back in under 10 minutes. You know, it takes an hour. Yeah. Well, anyway, so the great thing is that typically speaking, there's enough travelers coming and going, and you're going to find somebody who's a little bit emboldened to go out into that community, and they essentially just drag you along, and it's great. But yeah, we do a lot of, we put a lot of effort into introducing the community, you know, because when you get to Spoken Hostel, it's great to get a shower and put your stuff down, but generally speaking, people here they're here for like 30, 40 minutes, and then they walk into town. You know, I think Michael Mann, he can tell you, you know, once you're at Spoken, it's the place to drop everything and then go have some social experience if that's what you want, and then come back and share those stories about the trail, and then, you know, do some laundry, go to bed, hit the trail again.
That's what ice cream time is for.
That's what ice cream is.
Nice.
And it's not uncommon for us to take people out to the Painted Hills too, because it's a beautiful thing that's 9 miles away, and most people won't, you know, deviate from the trail that far, understandably. Mm-hmm. So it's not uncommon for us to load up our old Dodge van, or we have a big green school bus, and we just take everybody out to the Painted Hills. So, and then you get to meet more people.
So those are the hosts that we're looking for across the country.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
Cool. Any other questions in the Zoom? Blue hands. Let's see. Terry Wortman says, so great to hear what's happening in your world right now.
Terry.
Let's see. Someone here.
Terry's been a huge supporter.
22 Hornet Reed stayed 2 nights there a couple years ago. Great place to use while exploring the Painted Hills, and also a big fan of Tiger Town beer. So nice.
Yes.
So are we.
So are we. Yeah, Tiger Town Brewing. I mean, honestly, Tiger Town Brewing Company is one of those things that you should check them out. If Tiger Town and the other restaurants that are in town, the pastry shop, the Bridge Creek Cafe, you know, all that kind of stuff, those are all things that, if not for them, this would still be a good experience, and we would still do everything we can to make it a wonderful experience. But if not for those supporting services, you know, I mean, it is kind of a little ecosystem we've got going on, which
That's
is
a good
great.
description.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I really enjoyed it when I did the Overlander to, you know, drop stuff there, you know, take a shower, and the food at Tiger Town in their new space was amazing. I bought all sorts of donuts and pastries from the pastry shop.
You did.
That was amazing. It made such a memorable stop, and
a marked difference from the first time that when we rode through there in 2011 before you guys opened. And you know, it was still a place where you could stop as a cyclist. We camped in the town park and you know, stayed with a lot of fellow cyclists and had a great evening. But it was very much, you know, the 5 of us that were cyclists, you know, huddled together over here and not really interacting.
There was no good beer back then.
Yeah.
Right.
We're sorry we didn't get here sooner.
Yeah.
I think we opened the same year that Tiger Town really opened.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah.
thanks for having us on. This is cool.
Oh,
Yeah. Cool. So it's about an hour point right now.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Pat and Jillet, for joining us. Thank you, all the folks on the
you.
Zoom call and the YouTube chat. Once again, Spoken Hostel, awesome place. If you want to help support them, you can go to their webpage. They've got a donate button. We want to see them stick around because it's truly one of those just like gems.
Yes.
Thank
Anywhere, like the best bike hospitality we've ever experienced.
Absolutely. Any parting words? Any last wisdom or reminders to wait until it's all clear?
We get Christmas cards and cards from people all year long, but I just want to say two things. You guys impact us.
Yeah.
You think we impact you, but you impact us as guests. And as soon as you can, get back out here, but just make a reservation. Don't just show up. That's the only thing I'm asking.
Got to the point where we need a
We need
reservation.
a reservation now.
And
I
people
don't
can make reservations on your website. Is that
Yes,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
As soon as we open that up, then people can make reservations.
Because
But-
if you show up, I'm going to give you the deer in the headlights look and still try to find you a place.
But and I just wanted to say seriously, thank you to the cycling community for
Thank
supporting
you.
this vision. It's truly
Yeah,
amazing.
it's-
The generosity and the loyalty and it's amazing. We have really been. I hate to overuse the word blessed, but it truly is a blessing for us and to be supported by such a great community.
Right.
Agreed.
Cool. Well,
awesome?
on that note, I think we'll wrap it up. If you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share, be sure to subscribe. We've got a ton of fun live streams coming up ahead just to while away the time while you're sheltering in place. So until next time, stay safe, wash your hands, all that good stuff, and keep the supple side down. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Travel safe.